Hi guys, it's John Wildy. I'm here to talk to you a little bit today. After 9 years as a CRNA and 7 years as a full-time locum and running LocumCRNA.com, I am trying to give you some good information to help you out on your journey. You a little bit about how you kind of started the locums thing and any advice that you might have for those that are considering locums, kind of what got you into it and what brought you back, that kind of thing.
When I was kind of a long story, but when I first graduated, I took a W-2 position, and the politics were impressive, to say the least. And so I quit that and started doing locums. I had done travel nursing before I went to anesthesia school, and I knew then, because I'm a dog person, that if I ever did this again, I wanted to make sure I could take my dogs easily. And so I bought a motorhome and started traveling. I traveled for about a year, but at the time I was not, and I loved it because I was not part of the politics of the jobs, but I was not in a situation where I was, number one, used to making the money and what to do with the money and how to budget it the best. And so I liked one of my jobs, and then I took a full-time position there. I was there for like 3 years.
Oh, wow.
In the interim, since then, I have had 2 other full-time positions and moved across the country a couple times. Kind of the same thing. The thing that brought me to locums, I live in Maryland now, and the thing that brought me to locums this time was the environment where I was working before. It was unsafe, and I felt like I was having to choose between my job and my license on a pretty regular basis. And so I quit there. And since we've now lived in Maryland, if you look on gas work, all I need is 4 licenses and I can work till I retire. I'm 52 years old. I'll probably work till I'm at least, I love anesthesia. So
at least 53?
Yeah, I'll be forever. I love it. So with Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, I can be within 5-6 hours of home at the longest distance on any assignment. And there's pages of just locum positions in those 4 states.
Right. Now, do you recommend someone try and say, well, I want to stay just in this one city and try and do locum assignments? I mean, locums to me is different than per diem, so I also want to know what your thoughts on that are as well.
I think it depends on what you're willing to do as a provider. For me, I need either a supervised position with a lot of autonomy, or like an independent provider. I can't. I'm 7-8 years out of school now, and it's my anesthesia. I'm the one that's my name on the record. I'm the one that's going to get sued if anything were to happen, and I'm not. I don't do well with somebody coming in and telling me. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a collaborative environment, and I have no problem whatsoever working with anesthesiologists and other providers, and we brainstorm and I learn things, and that's phenomenal. But not too terribly long ago, I just about quit the position I was in because one of the anesthesiologists came in the room and I gave 5 defasciculating dose 5 of rock before I gave some sucks, and she said, "I'm going to make you give reversal."
After an hour?
Oh yeah, it was less. It was a little bit longer than an hour. Like
right.
2 hours. I was like, I didn't say anything, but I never gave reversal.
Right. Well, and if somebody comes up to me, this is what I'm thinking, and this is why I'm thinking it, and it's more of a collegial environment, I'm more apt to take their thoughts into consideration. But if someone says, "Oh no, this person, you give this, do it, do it now," I look at them and I'm like, No, that's my license just as much as yours. I mean, we're both in here. I understand that. But if you're going to make me do it or you're going to do it, I'm going to write that you did it and this was your case and your decision, because otherwise it is not how I would practice.
That's exactly
And
right.
I think that's the thing that we can do to protect ourselves, because in a locum environment, we're going into a new place and a new set of docs or other CRNA providers that we don't know, they don't know us. And, we have to play both sides of the fence. We have to accept that they don't know that we are capable. So
Correct.
there is a broad spectrum of CRNAs, there's a broad spectrum of MDAs, right? Some are amazing, they'll knock your socks off, and I will say on both sides of the fence, there are great people and there are not so great people.
Right.
And so we all have to take into consideration they may have had somebody bad before and they're trying to protect themselves. But at the same time, we have to protect ourselves. And that's why I always say, if I can say this is what I want to do and why, I'm most likely going to get my point across and not sound like a complete buffoon. But
Exactly.
I've only had one, maybe two people in the past that have not taken that into account and not cared. I mean, they say, I'm doctor and this is what you'll do. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. And it made one person angry. And otherwise, I've had a great relationship, and I've been able to build those relationships over time. And now, even with those larger groups that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to go work with them. Well, I've worked with them enough now over the last 7 years that they kind of know me, and they kind of know what I can do, and they go in and tell these groups when I'm coming to them that, hey, this guy's not a complete idiot, He wants to work a lot, he likes to work a lot, and he likes to take call, and he's capable. And I think that's the best reputation that we can give ourselves, is to be flexible and capable.
Right, and I think that there's I think there are also ways to communicate to, if you're working with an anesthesiologist in a supervised position or even a direct position, there are ways to communicate without it being ugly.
Right.
And I think, I'm learning that, because I think to be in this profession, you're going to be somewhat type A and strong-willed and stubborn. Otherwise, we wouldn't have made it through.
Well, and to do what we do, going into new practices, we have to be a little headstrong. We have to be confident in our own practice. Unfortunately, that confidence can come through as arrogance. So we have to be really careful in how we talk to people. And I think that's fair.
I'll give you an example. This happened not too long ago. This anesthesiologist who is really nice that I work with, she came in the room, and for whatever reason, she was all super hyped up or whatever, and was like, I intubated. No, I don't even think I intubated. But she came in the room, and I started hooking up the patient, and she practically pushed me away from the head of the table. And so I wasn't going to fight her. I was going to go. I just walked back to my Pyxis and started charting. And about the time she realized that what she had done, because at that point I'm like, you can do the case. I can go give breaks. I didn't say it, but that's what I was thinking.
Uh-huh.
If you want to do this case, that's fine. I'll go give breaks and, make sure everybody else is taken care of, and, I'll come give you a break. But it's either you do the case or I do the case,
right.
And all I had to do, I didn't have to say a word. All I did was pick up my paperwork, and I walked back. And then before you know it, she turned around and was just like, oh, let me get out of your way.
Right. And, there's ways that we can say that without actually saying that. Because if we say that and we bring that kind of machismo or whatever to the table, it's going to be fought back against. And we're going to give ourselves a bad name. So we like you did, take it easy, just step back, and they'll realize once they've done everything, either they're going to say, aren't you going to do something? Then you say, well, you were there, you were the, taking care of things, and I'm not going to push you out of the way. So I'm happy to step back if you'd like. Otherwise, I'm happy to take over when you're ready.
Right. Right. Just little things. I think that you learn that, because if you stay in one place in a W-2 position, which I'm not, but you get to know these people more, and so I think that that's where your flexibility as a locum comes in. You just kind of have to learn, is this a battle I'm willing to fight? You know, is this, or is it not? Does it matter? And with regard to your staying in one city, it depends on the practice. For some people, that's the most important thing. Mom with little kids at home or teenagers or whatever, I could see that. But if you're going to do that, you have to be willing to work in more restricted environments and be okay with that.
Well, it's not even necessarily more restricted. So if one of them finds out that you're living in the area, you're not going to get the housing allowance and the food per diem, and you're not going to necessarily get your malpractice paid for or the higher rate that they would have brought somebody from out of town to get the same position. So you also have to be careful of what you say and where you live and where your home base is compared to where you're working. And if everybody in town has already seen you working per diem at, 3 different hospitals, all W-2, that are $75, $80 an hour, you can't turn around and say, I'm a locum now and I want $140 an hour. Exactly. Because they're going to look at you and say, well, find another position. We don't need you that bad. And they'll wait you out. And I've been waited out at multiple places, and I said, okay, well, it's not worth working in my city. I will go work in other cities because it's $40, $50, $60 difference in the pay. And so for me, it's the difference between per diem, working in the same town, working 1 or 2 days here and there, and working locums where you're either intermediate, several week term to several month term at a hospital. And that may be a state away, that may be a couple cities away. But I think as a locum, we have to be willing to travel to the work, whether that's, an hour across town or if that's, 3 states down the road and it's an independent place. And it's also, as you continue to go through multiple different places, you talk a lot about personality. Do you notice that some of the personalities are the same at every hospital? It's got a different name and a different place, but if you're just getting away from a certain personality, you're going to see them in most places. It's quite impressive, especially after 7 years of looking around. I'm like, you're so-and-so from the other hospital. Okay, I know how to work with you now. But it takes some time of getting to know who's who and, what personality, how you need to talk to them and approach them, and what's going to most benefit you and your practice. But I really enjoy that dynamic now. At the beginning, I did not enjoy that dynamic because I learned that it's not the grass is always greener on the other side. It's, you learn how to communicate and how to deal with people. A lot of our job is social. We all know how to do anesthesia. It's just how to do anesthesia with the people that you're working with. And if you don't know certain parts of anesthesia, I don't think that you have to learn everything in anesthesia, but you have to be strong in your basics. And then the more you know and can branch out of those basic core, like bread and butter type of cases, your basic ortho, your basic, GYN, general surgery, all of those. Once you branch out from that, you can actually, sell yourself a little bit more. You don't have to go through a recruiter. You can do your own independence. But
at this point, I have not done that. And the reason I haven't done that is because I feel as though, and I could be wrong about this, but I feel as though there's a bit of a level of protection for me going through a recruiter. This is just my own opinion. My last position the anesthesia department got bought by USAP. And some of the locums that had done their own contracts were having a hard time getting paid. But my contract was with locum tenens.
Right. So you were with a larger company, and that's the one nice thing. So the company guarantees your pay, and then they have to go after whoever the provider is there to get repaid. Do you know how those terms typically work? For a recruiter, as far as when they get paid and how much they get paid?
I know that it's a certain percentage above what I get paid.
Okay.
But I don't know how. I did talk to. I think it's usually a couple of months out. Like they bill for it, and usually there's a couple of months delay from when I've actually turned in my time, and then 2 weeks later I get paid for that.
Right. And your recruiter's on you like, hey, it's Monday now. We need the timesheet.
Right.
And they do that because they go under either net 30, net 45, net 60 days. So every time they submit a timesheet, they start the clock. So they don't get paid for sometimes 2 weeks. Sometimes it's 30 days. Sometimes it's 45 days. Your larger entities can do net 45 or net 60 days. So it may be 2 months from when you submitted your first timesheet to when they actually get paid. And sometimes they'll do that with locums too. If they're doing an independent contract, the hospital or the group may try and say, oh, it's going to be 30, 45, 60 days before you actually get a paycheck for your work. And then sometimes you have to hound them to get it. So I am similar to you. I have done a couple of independent contracts, but I do also use recruiters, and I don't find that in most instances the pay difference is significant. And I have to say that because I've worked for $115 an hour all the way up to $170 an hour.
Right.
Either independent and or working through an agency. Now, the $170 an hour takes into account I was doing all of my own housing and food and call, and
So it was all inclusive.
it was all inclusive and then some. So, your travel back and forth, that's all on you. So there was a lot of things that went into that, but the housing in that area cost, $25 an hour. So I was still making around $140 an hour as I would have with an independent contract. My independent contracts, I've actually taken a beating on. I've been 115 to 125 on an independent contract. So I'm actually making less than I have on agency contracts. And I guess part of that could be negotiation, but part of that is these hospitals and groups, they know where CRNAs typically, pan out as far as pay, right? And they're going to try and undercut as much as you can. And if you're really wanting to be in that area, or there's a reason to be there, they can, you only have so much, leeway. And I chose to go to those places because I wanted to be there. It's not necessarily they were desperate and they needed to be there. So I took my licks and I did what I needed to make those things happen for the time that I wanted to be there. But it was also, my terms and my decision to do it.
Yeah. I mean, right now where I'm working is a little bitty tiny town. There's 2 red lights, and it's 45 minutes to Walmart.
Nice.
It's a little bitty tiny place. But because of that, I'm making bank. I got a great contract. It's beautiful. It's 4.5 hours from home, so I still obviously can come home on the weekend.
Very nice.
Unless I'm on call. But it's a great position, and so since I'm not necessarily looking, I mean, I grew up in Memphis. I keep going from smaller and smaller and smaller places. I really like the small town living. I like being able to come back home. It's a little bit bigger. It's still a very small town, but we have a Lowe's and we have a Walmart here at home.
Can you tilt your camera down just a little bit? I barely see your head there. There you go. Perfect. Awesome.
So I think you're right. I think it depends on what you want. There was one locum that I kind of took her place in this position, and she was like, there's just nothing to do here. There's nothing to do. Well, I'm okay with that. I don't do that much anyways. I hang out with my dog, and I like to read, and, I go to bed early because I have to get up so early, and, I'm fine with that, and I go home every weekend.
Right. So that's one of the nice things about locums is you can choose the type of practice and the length of time that you're in that practice. So you might take it easy for 3 months, 6 months, and then say, you know what? I haven't done this type of practice. Like for me, I haven't done hearts and OB in a while. I'd like to go back to doing those.
Right.
Well, I talked to one or two of the recruiters that I know, or I kind of put the feelers out to places I've been and say, hey, I'm looking for this kind of practice, and if you're needing somebody, shoot me an email. Let me know.
Right.
And then if I get something back, I say, okay, well, this is my rate for where I am now, and these are the things that I need to get into a contract, and if we can work it out, it sounds like a great idea.
Right.
But you really have to be sure, right, of what you're looking for. If you go in and say, I don't know what I'm looking for, and I don't know what dates, or you say, well, I can only do Saturdays because I have to be back for my regular W-2 job on Monday, so I can't take any call on Sunday, but most places don't do regularly scheduled cases on Sunday, so they don't need like a 12-hour person. If anything, they need a 24-hour person. So you're telling me you can't work Monday through Friday, but you can't take Sunday night either because you have to be at work on Monday.
Right.
So you're telling me you want to do locums on Saturdays. That's difficult. Have you seen any of those types of jobs or availability?
I have not. Honestly, though, I wasn't looking.
Right.
I'm in a position now where we are desperately trying to get some debt paid off.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot about that.
Right? We have 4 houses, thankfully, thanks to all of our moves, and none of them are in the same state,
mm-hmm.
or the same state that we live in.
Right.
They're all rented, thankfully.
Beautiful.
However, we still have, school loan debt. Just last week found mold in the basement. We're going to have to redo our entire basement. So for me, my big goal, and I think that's what you're going to either love locums or hate it, because it depends on what your goal is. My goal is I want us to be debt-free. That's our goal. We're debt-free, money in the bank I want 6 months, and I'm not going to be comfortable until I have 6 months of savings in the bank.
Right.
Then I don't have to worry. And when these things happen, we got it covered. I'm okay. Or if I needed to I'm the sole provider, so if I need to have surgery, or what if I'm in a car accident driving back and forth?
I'm the sole earner here too, and that's one reason. Like with I don't know if you've looked at the different videos that I've done, but that's one of the exact reasons I did that SMART goals things, was just to tell people how you've got to have a plan, you've got to have a reason you want to do locums.
Right.
And so that's why I have my goals. I mean, I don't know if I can show you, but over on my chalkboard right there is where my goals are all written for 2018, and I even have started for 2019. And that's because I have to have a reason that I'm going to bust my butt and work 110 hours a week, 2 to 4 weeks every month, and it's away from the family. I mean, I travel, I get on a plane, I go down for at least 2 weeks at a time. Next Sunday I'll be on a plane. I only going for a week, but that's all time away from the kid, and everyone's like, well, why don't you just stay in one place? I'm like, well, I also enjoy the off time, and I have so many different things happening everywhere.
Right.
I'm doing good to keep every plate spinning, as Betsy would say, but at some point either the plates are going to fall or I'm going to have to take a step back. So right now I'm trying to take a step back, still do the locums, and be able to do a good job. Right. And enjoy a little bit of life too while being a locum. Sure. So a lot of people will bust their butt and kill it, and I did that for the first 6 months, but at some point you have to take a breather. And that's one of the great things about locums is, if I want to take a 2-week vacation, hey, just so you know, when I'm doing this contract, this is the 2 weeks I'm going to be gone.
That's right.
And I haven't had anyone have a problem with it.
Never. I never had any. They just assume that you're a locum, and this is what
these are the dates that we have you.
That's one of the things my wife, when we were deciding to go locums and start this again. I wasn't married then. We didn't know each other. And when I started talking about it, one of the things that she said was because she knew how miserable I had been at this place. Mm-hmm. how I was so, they were going to fire me for standing up for, doing what's normal patient care, normal standard guidelines with anesthesia. And they're fighting and going up to administration because I'm not willing to put a patient to sleep for an elective procedure who had a cheeseburger on the way in. And administration was agreeing with the surgeons that no, I'm not going to, no. Just crazy stuff. It was like walking back to, 1970, where the surgeon owns the hospital and makes all the rules and tells everybody what to do. And so Ashley, my wife, knew this, and she knew how miserable I was. And she just said, when we started talking about it, she said, I'm tired of other people being in charge of our happiness. And that was profound for me. It was profound. It meant, for me being a locum, it means I get to control the money and how much I make and how much I don't make and how much time off I get. And I don't have to worry about I've gotten a certain amount of vacation time and this is all I've got. Do I get paid when I'm on vacation? No, I don't. No. But I budget for it.
Right.
I budget for it. So I know that I can still pay my bills and I can still put the money where it needs to go. I can put more opportunity as a locum. I did an LLC, as most of us do. So you get more opportunity with putting money, quite a bit more money towards retirement, and all of this kind of stuff. So it's been phenomenal. I can promise you, we have yet to reap all of the rewards because we've only done it for last year. Come tax time, I'd only worked locums for 2 months out of the year. So this will be my first completely year where I actually see that this is the profit of the business and what do we want to do, and that kind of, where do you want to put that? Do you want to put it in savings? Do you want to put it towards debt?
Now, do you think someone has to have it all completely figured out, accounting, a lawyer, all that stuff before you get started, or is that the things that you figure out as you go?
I think part of it's figuring it out. I think you figure it out as you go for the most part. But I will say that I have my money guy, and I don't know that I could even say, but it's Blue Mark. Okay. And those guys have been, and so all I did was say, look, this is what's going on. And they found me a long time ago, found me the life insurance that I have, found me the disability insurance, because I was single. I didn't have to have those things. Then I got married and we have 4 houses. I can't leave that, Right. Found all of that for me. And then when I said I wanted to do the LLC and we set all that up and they take care of everything. I mean, it is remarkable. It's made it so easy for me. There has been some stuff of course, that you have to do. But they've made it so easy for me and have been so helpful and talked me through even the stupidest things. Like I'd go to he'd say, you need to go to the Maryland website and do this. And I would email him back, I don't know what to do with this. And there's questions on here, I don't know what to say. And so he would call me and we would sit on the phone on Saturday afternoon and he'd talk me through so I would say to have a good resource.
Definitely.
Would be an important thing to do as a locum. But you don't have to have it. No, you don't have to have it all figured out.
And one of those things, and that's why I started this Locum CRNA website, is just so you would have those resources. So, if you wanted to go with Blue Mark, definitely go with them. But there is also a list of all financial services and accountants that's on the website, and it's available to anyone, anytime, as far as that goes, which is, these are all CRNA recommended. There's always 1 or 2 that one person doesn't like.
Right.
And so I've had a couple of people say, I can't stand those people. I'm like, well, there's probably 10 others that do like them. So I haven't taken off the 1 or 2 people that people have said, I don't like them and I wouldn't work with them. I'm like, well, there's 10 other people that might. And so I leave them up there because they were recommended by someone. So any of those recommendations, like anything in anesthesia, it's do your own research Make sure you ask the questions and make sure you're comfortable with who you work with. Because if you're not comfortable with who you work with, you're not going to be happy. It doesn't matter who recommended them or, how good of a company they are. If you question what they're doing and you don't like how they're managing things, there's 10 other people that are willing to help, and I'm sure of that. One of the things that I always recommend is it's after tax time for most people. Granted, I filed an extension, so mine are like any day now being filed. But take your taxes to another person and have them review them. Usually there's no charge because they want your business. If they can have your business for the next 10 years because they found you another $2,000 in savings off of last year's taxes, it's worth it for you and for them and for your time.
Right.
Now, if they say, I'm going to charge you $1,000 to review your taxes, you can tell them where to go jump off a ledge. But,
Right.
Unless you went to H&R Block or something to try and do your taxes, or you did them on your own and you're not... if you paid 35% or 30% of your income last year towards taxes, and that's federal taxes, then I would say find one of those people and ask them to review your taxes, because I think you're probably paying too much. If your accountant or your tax attorney can't get you less than 30% on your earnings and expenses, I would be shocked. Granted, I know we have our businesses and rental houses as well, and I know part of those things do help you on taxes. So I'm not saying that everyone's going to have the same outcome, and not one accountant is the same as another accountant, and what is accepted, what is not accepted, what they're willing to put their name on. But either way, whatever happens, your taxes are still your taxes. So we have to be careful in saying, whoever signs those is not responsible and is not legally responsible for your taxes. You are the only person that's responsible for your taxes. So, fair warning.
I think it's also important to the reason that I stepped out of doing my own taxes was when I started working in multiple states.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing about, instead of having a single tax guy, single CPA, to me, is it's nice when you have a group like I do, and they're out there where there's people that are licensed in all these states. So if my touchstone guy at Bloomberg, for example, my guy, he's got resources there that they're licensed in these other states, so they can make sure that's done correctly, because it was way out of anything that I knew what to do.
Right.
Rental houses. We've got our basement has been on Airbnb. All these things. It's great. It's great. But the other thing that I will say is, and I still haven't quite figured out exactly how I'm going to get this to them, but there's apps on your phone that you can do so that, like, the one that I use is called Self-Employed, and you connect it to your bank, and so every charge, everything that goes through your bank, you can designate it as business or personal. And if it's business, is it meals? Is it lodging? Is it gas? Is it, for me, I do it sometimes it's rental income, sometimes it's rental expenses, sometimes, all of these things. And so there's a lot of things. There's a lot of help out there. It'll take pictures of receipts, and you can put them where they go.
What's that? What was that app?
It's called Self-Employed.
Self-Employed.
By Intuit.
All right, I'm going to put that up under. I've got a page on the Locum CRNA that's just like podcasts and apps and that kind of thing. So I'm going to put that in there just so people can find it, because I think that's a great thing to have.
It can be overwhelming trying to keep up with all these receipts and getting them and putting and everything going where it needs to go.
Right.
When you've got all these different I'm sure you know that, when you've got all these different irons in the fire. So at least I can say, that was the Asheville rental. This is the New Mexico rental. This, you know,
Yep, and
this
I
is
have
how.
multiple Excel spreadsheets to where I put my monthlies in and that kind of thing. But it gets overwhelming and it takes a
Yeah,
whole day every time I come home just to organize, make sure everything's up to date.
right.
So I totally understand that. So I also use a turbo scan for PDF just so I can send something to the accountant. All I got to do is take 3 pictures of it, it puts it into a PDF, and it sends it in an email to my accountant. And I find that to be super easy, but
Right.
I am not as good as I should be with accounting and all of that stuff as far as getting it to the accountant. I leave
Right.
a lot of things up to them, and they earn their yearly paycheck, but
Oh yeah.
it's
Oh yeah.
I send copies of every statement to them, whether it necessarily has business stuff on it or not. I try and itemize it out of every statement that I get every month and send copies to the accountant, so then they have to go through it. I'd like to get better, but I didn't take the time in setting it up initially, and so now it's like, okay, well, we really got to get this because it's been years, and
Yeah.
at some point, it does
Yeah.
help to have those systems, and I applaud the people that wait until they have a system, but I don't think you should wait for years or months to say, I have to have every system, I have to know exactly what to do, I have to have all of my business licenses. You can start out as a sole proprietor. You don't have to have a business license. You
That's
don't
right.
have to do, the foreign entity in a different state. You can go as a sole proprietor. Granted, your tax benefits are a little less, so
Right.
there are benefits to having your own corporation, and your financial person or your accountant should be able to help you kind of set those things up, do them for you, or tell you how to do them. Most of the time it's fairly simple and it's not a huge amount of fees. I just
Okay.
found out that Texas for a foreign corporation is $750. I was like, ooh, that hurts. So I'm
Yeah,
not
that
sure
does.
if I want to go as a sole proprietor down there because there is no state tax. But
Uh-huh.
I think even with that the no state tax and the corporation, I would actually save more being able to do the SEP IRA or other like solo 401k type things. So anyways, we've been talking forever, and I don't want
Yeah.
to keep people forever, but I'd love to have you come back and maybe we can talk on just like one topic instead of kind
Sure.
of going all over the place. But I truly enjoy it, and I actually like talking about this stuff. So anytime there's questions or that kind of thing, maybe we can get some other people to do this too, and we can,
That would be great.
if we've been doing this for a while, maybe we can do like a little mentorship or, try and hook people up with other people that have done it for a while.
Right. Right.
So
Very good.
awesome. Well, thanks for talking, and I enjoyed it, and I hope we can keep
Yeah.
this up a couple more times.
All right. That sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Talk to
Have
you
a good
later.
one.
All right, guys. Well, if you enjoyed that, make sure you like it. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you tell everybody on the Locum CRNA Facebook, or stay tuned for other episodes. Hopefully, we can get some other people to talk about their locum experience. And make sure you check out locumcrna.com. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye bye.